Hey guys, if I republish things, it's completely in error because I don't know what the heck I'm doing with this. So that publish of my first part didn't go through. You might get in a little bit, but I'm gonna just record everything, and then when I get out on the road and get a little bit better service, maybe I can publish everything. So this is part two of yesterday's recap. So I left off in the first video where I was at this restaurant not far from the entrance to the Fight 93 Memorial, and met some great people. And before I had left, actually, Robbie had disappeared. I mentioned I was with Nancy, Carl. Robbie was there. Robbie left, wished me well. And a few seconds later, another regular, Wayne, walked in, and he was talking a little bit. And while they were talking, they were asking about food, and that's one of the things I need to kind of prepare for now is I try to get as much food in me in the day as soon as possible because I never know when that next mini mart's going to be out there. So they asked me some questions. I said, is there anything down in Stoystown, any kind of mini mart where I could kind of maybe meet somebody, try to find a place to crash for the night? I'm sure Nancy and Carl might have both been willing to, except I think Carl said he lives 24 miles from where we were. He just likes to come up there. And Nancy lives another 12 or 13, and obviously they wouldn't be able to get me back to that starting point. I'd be way off track. So I'm sure they would have offered. But anyway, basically my mojo is to go to, public places like this, and that's where I have captive audiences and kind of share what I'm doing, as opposed to walking up to a stranger on the street and saying, hey, I guess what I'm doing, can you help me? Anyway, so they mentioned that there was a Dollar General up in town, and they were talking about where is it, and they mentioned the VFW. I don't know if you just saw that little message pop up. Anyway, they mentioned the VFW, and then it clicked on me, VFW. So if you remember, on day number one, a friend of mine, Greg, my son's baseball coach, had run out to Gettysburg to meet with me, and he gave me a couple of things. And one of the things he gave me was this medallion, which is I don't know if I'm using the right term of medallion, it's a coin, but it's a Robert M. Gates Secretary of State coin from Department of Defense. And these mean something to our military folks. These have meaning, and I probably didn't even fully appreciate the meaning until last night. So with that being said, the brain started working, and I said, well, if nothing else, folks down at the VFW are usually pretty good people. So I headed on down to Stoystown, and you have to be a member to get in. And normally, my knowledge is you have to be buzzed in. Well, this didn't have to be buzzed in. I kind of walked in, and of course, this is one of the biggest ones I'd ever seen, and it was packed with people. Probably had 50, 60 people there. And of course, the minute I walked through the door, 50 sets of eyes, transfixed right on me. So I just picked one random gentleman out and said, hey, I'm not a member here, but I have this. Do you think, I can sit down and rest for a spell and see what's going on? And he said, well, go talk to that gentleman over there. He's my steward. And there was a gentleman in the conversation, so I politely waited. And his name was Skip. And he got done, and I said, hey, Skip, I have this coin, and I'm wondering if you could help me out. I'm walking across the country. Just need a place to charge my phones and maybe rest a little bit and, have a water. Do you think I could do that? And of course, anything with that serves liquor these days, Liquor Control Board goes out and does surprise audits and stuff like that on folks. So I wouldn't say he was terribly skeptical, but just asked a couple of questions to put his mind at ease. And when I gave him the card and showed him, he was more than hospitable, and I really mean more than hospitable. So he sat me down, put my bag down, and started to charge my phones. And he came over and said, "Hey, can I get you something to eat?" And the truth is, I just eaten an hour or two ago up the road there, and I don't eat a whole lot on this trip. You drink so much water, and I guess it's just, I've always eaten out of boredom half the time, to be honest with you, and certainly not bored on this trip. But he seemed to be so earnest and wanting to help me. I felt bad, so I said, sure, I would love to have a slice of pizza. So he brought me a slice of pizza. I think I had another light beer or something, and so I got to meet a few folks, and he was nothing but polite, and but he had a lot going on. So I sat there and minded my business and met a few of the other folks. And one of the, I don't know, waitresses or cooks or somebody had come out and asked me what I was doing. I kind of told them, and it was very strange. Sometimes you can just look into the eyes of somebody, and you know that they get you, and you can just see it, right? And you can just tell that she was somebody that understood what I'm doing, and I don't know why, but I thanked her for her time and her interest. I gave her one of my cards, and was sitting back down, and after about a half hour, I think I was watching the baseball game. The Pirates were on. I'm in Pirate country now, so I was hoping. But I did find out my Phillies won again, by the way. Thank you very much. I don't think the Yankees did again. Thank you very much. But anyway, I get childish sometimes. Later on, that same young lady came out of the kitchen, and I kind of felt this little kinship. So I said, "Hey, can you do me a favor? What I do when I go out, I don't have any place to stay. I'm fully prepared to kind of stay outside. I don't have a problem with that. But, the people around here." I said, "Who's the one or two people that might be, kooky enough to let some crazy guy sleep on that floor for the night, And she says, "Well, I'm not really sure, but let me check and take a look." So she went back to the kitchen, and about 5 minutes later, Skip comes out again. And he says, "Listen, buddy," he says, "hang tight. We made some phone calls. We'll get you covered." And I was kind of beside myself. And, okay, I appreciate it, Skip. And so he kept giving me an update every 10 minutes, just waiting to hear back, or this or that. And finally comes up to me and says, "Hey, guess what? My sister is the pastor over here at the church. And she has something going on right now, but I think we're going to be able to put you up at the church tonight." I said, "Fantastic. I just really appreciate a floor and things like that." So sure enough, 5 minutes later, it comes by, and Skip comes up on me, and like, "Come on, let's go." So he takes my bag and puts me in his truck, drives me up to his sister's house, and we walk in, and there's a group of 6 people around the dining room table, and they were having a meeting. I think it might have been for their planning of the Christmas tours around town. Great little town, very cute, very pretty. And so Skip came in, and he exchanged some pleasantries with the folks there, and maybe didn't know them directly, but in a small town, he knew her father or his brother or something like that. So, and then Skip said, "Well, Jim's doing something kind of special, and I want him to share it with you." So here I was in front of this little audience of 6, kind of explaining what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, and how it came to be. And at that point, there were some questions, there was a lot of support, and then Sharon, Skip's sister, said, "All right, Skip, I appreciate it, we got him from here." So I didn't want to break up their meeting. I'm trying not to impose, even though I guess all I am is in a position to anybody, because they didn't expect me to come rolling up into their life. And I said, "Excuse me, I'm going to step outside, make a few phone calls to talk to the family, let everybody know I'm okay. And then I got a place, because I know a lot of friends and family are concerned that I'm going to be outside, sleeping outside." In fact, there's a funny story about that. So something of an exchange not too long ago, somebody told me, "You know what, I hope you get eaten by a bear on your journey." Well, when I was up at the restaurant, I was pretty tired and beat, and there was a state game lands across the street. And I was, I don't mind sleeping outside. I really enjoy nature, and one of these days I'm going to do it by choice. I'm just going to go out there and do it. And I had talked about sleeping, like the restaurant might have a hill in a lake or something like that, and the owner was out at that point. And he said, "No, I wouldn't be. I think we had bear here the last 4 nights in my dumpster, so you might not want to sleep out there tonight." So that changed my plan to go down there. But it was only ironic because somebody wished that I would get eaten by a bear just a few weeks earlier. So who knew? So anyway, I step outside. I let some family and friends know I'd be okay. And maybe half hour later, the door opened and their meeting had broken up. And I said goodbye to everybody and thanked them. And the people were just, again, so polite, so nice. And then Sharon and her husband put me in the back of the minivan, drove me over to the church. They brought me down. I'll give you a little view of it now. Here was my quarters. I got some. It's just like a giant, small town rec room kind of church. But they told me where the light was. They told me where the bathroom was. Asked me if I needed anything. Showed me a refrigerator.